All right, I'm gonna wait 5 more minutes while people join us, and then we will start. Thank you all so much for coming, Fulfill the News with Friends. Um, I am going to be your host today. My name is Marcela Onyango, and I am a stand-up comedian, general just shit talker on TikTok. And my favorite thing to do is to love to tell people to feel about the news. So today I'm super excited to have some of my favorite friends for us to get together and tell you all how to feel about news that has made me either angry, sad, or glad. So thank you so much for joining. Let's get right into the news. So the first piece of news that I want to talk about is news that has made me very angry. And this is the news that over 10,000 mostly Haitian immigrants who are seeking entry into the United States are being forced to take shelter under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas, as they wait to be processed to come into the United States. The reason why this news makes me super angry is because I think borders in general are inherently racist and inhumane and should not exist. I just think like it's really messed up. The United States of America teens can go to Cancun and get drunk and throw up in a pool, and nobody tells them, "Oh no, you can't come back here because you're a problem and we don't want you here." They can just do whatever they want. Meanwhile, like Black people from Haiti who are running away from home because of problems caused by the United States of America are being forced to wait under a bridge without food, without shelter, so that they can come into this country. Like the United States likes to blow up people's houses and then say, "You can't come here." That's not cool. You can't blow up somebody's house and then say, "Don't come to my house." But now that I think about it, if you're blowing up somebody's house, that means that you don't want them to have a house because you don't like them and you're probably racist. And that's what I think their borders are really there for. It's so that the United States can just keep on destroying other people's houses but not worry about all those people moving in here. So those are my general feelings about what's currently happening in Texas, in the Texas border town with the Haitian immigrants stuck under the border. But to help me further talk about feelings, I'm going to have my friend, the very smart, very funny anti-rapist activist Wagatwe Wanjuki, join me to tell me her feelings about what's happening with people who are being forced to take shelter under a bridge. This is sad.
Hey,
Wagatwe, thank you
yeah.
so much for joining me today. This news has me
Thanks for
feeling all
having
sorts of
me.
things.
This
Before we
news. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask you so that the audience knows before we get into your feelings about the news. I just want the audience to know a little bit about like what are your general political views?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty lefty. Open borders. I don't believe in nation states. I feel like they are not adequate structures for governance. I am, pro sex worker, pro trans people, intersectionality, all that shit. Most marginalized, most oppressed, put them in the center, front and center. Land back, all, pro indigenous, all that shit. Like, I just don't want people to be traumatized unnecessarily.
I love that. I don't think people should be traumatized unnecessarily unless they bullied me in middle school. In which case, I mean, I am an abolitionist, but I will make an exception for Zach. He was not nice. But I want to, before we get into Zach, who, by the way, Zach, wherever you are, I remember you. Let's get into your feelings about the 10,000 immigrants who are mostly Haitian, who are currently taking
Mhm.
shelter under a bridge in Texas.
I mean, I am very pissed and I'm disgusted. As I said, like, I'm totally for open borders, anti-imperialism. So just knowing that borders are a form of violence. And I think that case really shows it. Like, those folks do not need to be under those conditions. They should not have to endure more trauma to have a better life, right? They're there because of conditions that like colonial powers like the United States have inflicted on Haiti, right? The United States and France, obviously, the OGs. But like, it's just something that I think is one of the parts of American life I feel like is like normalizing really like bad things that don't need to happen. And that just feels like the epitome of it. Especially me as a first generation American. My parents are immigrants. My mom is from the Bahamas. So, like, there's a West Indian, Caribbean, like, connection, and just knowing how Black immigrants are often ignored and mistreated. So, folks need to be more angry about this stuff, and I hope folks are going to think more about the concept of borders and migration, right, as human beings and that sort of stuff, because I think the crisis is only going to get worse. And the military is
Absolutely.
preparing because they already have their documents, right, about water wars and shit like that. So we need to catch up, folks, and we need to see like what's happening and start working together.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Things are definitely going to get worse. Do you think it's only fair as retaliation that if American teens want to go to Cancun, they are forced to stay under a bridge instead of like a nice hotel?
I think that's only fair, right? It builds
Yeah.
character. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard struggling builds character, but for some reason this only applies to when they're not talking about white people.
Right?
Isn't
It's
that
so
funny?
weird.
So
Especially
weird.
if they're not
But
poor.
especially if they're not poor. But I do want to go back to another a salient point that you've made, which is like a lot of the problems that have been caused in Haiti has been because, France was like, we're pissed off that you want freedom. Why would you want that? And you kicked us out, and they had to pay reparations. And the other part, the United States, is like, friends. We're going to make their lives suck. The notion that, all the problems of people running away from home have been caused by people who are telling them, don't come here, when these people, AKA the white people who live in the United States, are not even from here. Like without open borders, white people would have never been anywhere.
Thank you. And that's the mess up part. Like, they think about it, like, white folks came here when there were open borders. They came here to kill a bunch of people, created this really, like, inhumane, awful way of life that we all resent. And then is like, yo, these are our borders and you have to follow our rules. And you can't be here. Like, it's like pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, if you were to come up with a policy solution that you think we
Mm.
as individuals would enact, I don't think the governments are going to do anything. What do you think we personally as people should do to fight against open borders? And
What
this
could
doesn't
they
have to be
do?
anything for smart or thought out. I, for example, just think that it's perfectly fine for all of
We,
us to shame
mm.
anybody who's a white person who's going to a country that is not white and
I
make
think,
them feel bad about it.
yeah. You know how like they had that awful website about Walmart, like people of Walmart? We could just have like white people of something, of borders, transcending board. I don't know. We could do something shamey. That'll teach them.
That'll teach them. I mean, it won't change their ways at all, but that'll 100% teach them that what they're doing is messed up and wrong. One thing is that, the United States Supreme Court has forced the Biden administration to go back to bring back to stay in the Mexico policy that Trump enacted. Like that's one thing. And so that policy has to be returned. And that's obviously going to have like a worse impact on these people because people are not going to be able to come to the United States and they're going to be stuck in Mexico. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, I think it's a sign of how messed up the Supreme Court is. And I think we need to like look at the signs about like the Supreme Court is messed up, but also this is what the United States is and has always been. Because I think a lot of times people want to say, oh, it's just Trump, but like, yes, but remember, this country hates people of color, hates people outside of this country. So I think we have to like get out of that American exceptionalism and realize like this is a pretty violent, selfish, mean country.
Yeah, like we are not like the good guys. I think that sometimes people watch Hunger Games or they watch Star Wars and they're like, we're the Jedi. No, sweetie, we're the Empire. Or like that
Right.
super mean lady with like a lot of makeup. Like that's who you are. And like I think that we just like need to accept that and just like do better. And I mean, I think a lot of it is just I think because there's this idea of American exceptionalism, we're not as ungovernable as we should be. Like we should make these people feel bad about the things that they should do. I think you should boo a congressperson when you see them. You should boo a cop when you see them. You should boo like even like anybody really wealthy. Like if somebody looks like they could have money, just like boo them. I feel like these are all personal things that we could
Like
do
just in
to
case.
like, make them feel unwanted.
I do think sometimes though, like, because like look at other countries, right, where other countries have literally thrown politicians in the trash. Like the politicians here, they do live a little too easy. Like I was like, if people were meaner to them on the street, I feel like it would go further than people think. I genuinely think that.
I think that throwing politicians in the trash is a policy that we as human beings should take. It should be like, I mean, if you see one, get together, get a friend, come together, pick them up, and just throw them in the garbage. Preferably if it's extra disgusting. I feel like maybe like a McDonald's garbage would be a nice place to throw them.
Ooh,
We could even
brutal.
maybe like come up with a map of the most disgusting places to throw a politician and make sure they all land there.
You can like match them, get like Mitch McConnell, the little like a little map,
Yeah.
mix and match.
Yeah, that would be funny though because they would get rid of all the trash cans, like they've gotten rid of all the toilets, and so we will it will all be bad for all of us. But it would be fun for the first five weeks that we do this,
Right.
But Wagatwe, it was truly a pleasure talking to you. What are your final thoughts and just points that you want to tell people about, like just like the general, like if there was one key takeaway that you would like to tell people about your feelings about 10,000 immigrants being stuck under a bridge, what would it be?
I would say be mad about the state of immigration in the United States. And it's only going to get worse. And we need, as Americans, especially if you're American, like it's our duty to care about this stuff and step up.
Thank you, Wagatwe.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy that you joined us. Wagatwe, where can people find you and your content and the things that you talk about?
Yeah. You can find me anywhere at Wagatwe, my name. And it's on Twitter, TikTok, my website, wagatwe.com, Instagram, all that good stuff. Say hi.
All right. Thank you so much, Wagatwe. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Well, that was Wagatwe, who's very smart and talks about things that I sometimes, honestly, I'm very thankful that she talks about because a lot of people don't cover. Before I bring on our second guest, who will talk about something that has made me sad, I want to talk about Democrats and Republicans. There's always this point of view that, you know, Democrats and Republicans are radically different. But what a lot of people don't know, or maybe know, but just like don't fully understand, is that they're not. They're similar. I would consider them to be like the JV version and the varsity version of like a high school football team. And if I was going to say who's varsity, it's definitely the Democrats because they're very good at their game. You know, they've tricked people into thinking they truly care, but they really don't. They don't care about you as much as the Republicans don't care about you. The only difference is that they'll say mean things and smile about it, while the Republicans will say mean things and say they mean them. So I just wanted everybody to just take a quick moment to think about that and remember that. And while I do that, I want to toss out some things that have happened, and I'll let you guess for a moment whether a Democrat or a Republican did this, and I'll tell you which one did it. So, an event that has happened. Who started the war on drugs? You had a moment. That is definitely Nixon, who is a Republican. Who passed tough on crime policies that led to the largest increases in federal and state prison inmates of any president in history? That would be a Democrat. That's Bill Clinton. Who created the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families program, which imposed a 5-year lifetime limit on welfare assistance and lifetime ban on eligibility for welfare and food stamps for anyone convicted of a felony drug offense, including the possession of marijuana? You had a second. That would be Bill Clinton, a Democrat. It's always messed up when they say he's the first Black president. That always feels very racist because they did a lot of harm to the Black community. I don't like that. Yes, he plays a saxophone, but he's a shitty person. Next thing, who gave COVID-19 relief money to the police? This is a mayor. This person, also a Democrat, Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago. So when we talk about Democrats and Republicans, I'd like for you to stop thinking about them as separate people, but more of like one monster that sometimes splits up and looks like it's in different bodies. But that's it for that. Now let's go back to the news. Our next piece of news is a piece of news that made me rather very sad. So this piece of news is that six Palestinians who had escaped from an Israeli prison, proving that no one should ever doubt the power of a spoon because they actually used a spoon to dig their way out of the prison, have been rearrested. And this news makes me very sad because I'm a person who hates prisons and apartheid, and this prison breakout made me so happy, probably happier than when Joe Biden fell up those stairs. Okay, I know Joe Biden falling upstairs is not as monumental as people freeing themselves from prison, but I'm kind of a petty person, and my toxic trait is that sometimes I enjoy the downfall of my enemies more than the victory of my friends. this is something that I am working on. So just, let me work on it. But this is not about me. This is about the 6 people who maybe have brought a little bit of joy and hope to Palestinian people being locked back into a cage, which makes me super sad. Here to discuss feelings about this news is my very good friend, Amanda Hunt, who is also a comedian. Amanda, before we get into these 6 people being, hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to the show.
Feels wrong to come in all smiley, like, yes, let's talk about these 6 recaptured prisoners.
It feels very messed up, but sometimes I smile not to cry, and I don't know. Yeah, it's working, right? The tears aren't coming. But Amanda, before we get into our feelings about these prisoners being put back in prison, I would just like to get a general sense of your politics so the audience knows where you're coming from.
Well, you know me, classic libertarian. Just kidding.
Get out. We're not talking. You mean, if you meant libertarian socialist, I think you and I could be friends because that means you're an anarchist. But libertarian only, that word, very
I'm
heavy.
not. I was being hilarious. I would say like I would say I started out pretty left and have felt like I'm like leaping to the left further every year. I'm an abolitionist, pro-abortion, very anti-cop. Is there any group that takes more and does less?
Maybe rich people, but that's,
Honestly, I think rich people take less and do more, and that's not a defense of rich people. That's how bad I think cops are.
They're pretty evil.
A lot of rich people mean well, and I don't even think there's one cop who even means well,
I would say a lot of rich people think that they tell us that they mean well, but it's like they don't really. They like try to, it's like, when they try to trick you, it's like, we like you, but really we're like stabbing you in the back, stabby stab.
I have a BFA in musical theater, so I'm very familiar with that behavior. Yes.
Oh, you're like a known backstabber.
I hope I'm not a backstabber, but I'm familiar with it, and maybe I've done it. And I apologize if anyone I've wronged is watching. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm so sorry.
Have you backstabbed somebody to get a solo before?
I wish that I had the opportunity to do that. Certainly I have not, but I would have. And that's why I do comedy now, not musical theater, because musical theater brings out the worst in me. Musical
theater brings the cop in you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are class traitors.
Musical theater, yeah. When I see like a bad musical theater person acting badly, I'm like, I hope they get out. Like there's a good person in there, but they got to get out of this.
They got to get out of this musical theater system that creates this complex that makes you become a traitor to others of your class.
Truly.
Yes, that's musical theater as a metaphor for capitalism. Anyway, Amanda, let's get into these 6 Palestinians who used a little spoon to dig themselves out of prison, let themselves out, only to be rearrested. And honestly, just made me very sad. Like, that made me very sad. What are your feelings on this?
I mean, like, it's truly gut-wrenching. Like, it's truly so sad. It's so, like, it's so hard to be hopeful, and yet those people had enough hope to use a fucking spoon to dig out. Like, there are times when I will not use a spoon on ice cream if it's like too fresh from the store. I'm like, it's hard. I have to put it back and let it, like, I just have to like give it a minute. These people use this on the floor. Like that, like the resilience of the human spirit to do that and then to be apprehended is like so fucking sad. And I feel bad because I am dumb and a comedian, so I don't have anything eloquent to say about it. And I also feel like something that I think Americans do is to say like, that thing's really bad. Look how bad that is in Israel. And it is really bad. And like, I obviously am anti-apartheid. But like, we do that stuff here all the time. And it's like, it's just like, it's so like, it's such a like big problem and such a big mentality and such a like, I wish I had any eloquence at all. I watched Wagatwe and I was like, cool, bring on the dumb second. That's
No, first of all, you're not dumb. Second of all, that whole thing about let's talk about ice cream and how like I feel like, when I have a spoon and my ice cream is too hard, not only do I almost give up, but I put it in the microwave. So I'm like willing to risk losing my ice cream just so that I can eat it fast. Meanwhile, these people were so patient, they use a spoon to dig themselves out. That's like how badly they want freedom. Yeah. I mean, if you if you were to pick something that you were sadder about, and that you were happier about than these people escaping from prison, I'm going to give you a couple of choices. What would you pick? Would you pick Biden falling up the stairs, which I personally loved? Would you pick the moment when that person threw the shoe at George Bush's head? Like, I
mean, an all-time greatest hit, frankly.
I mean, that was like really, 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 really good. I
gotta say, that is one of the moments that makes me the happiest in the world, and I love that guy will hop on Twitter anytime you mention that and be like, "That was me, I did that." Like he's so proud of it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you mention him at all on Twitter, he's like, "Yeah, that is me. I did toss that shoe." But like, we should be throwing shoes constantly. Bibi Netanyahu should have a permanent Adidas mark on his head from people just chucking their shoes at him. We should be throwing shoes at every freaking person. Dianne Feinstein. Lindsey Graham should be murdered by a stiletto through the temple. Parody.
She's definitely joking. It's a joke. She doesn't actually mean murder them.
As I said, I barely know that Lindsey Graham is a senator from South Carolina.
You even know who Lindsey Graham really is, Amanda. You don't know. You don't know who that is. Let's go back to the shoe.
I couldn't imagine who he is. I have no clue. But if I thought of who he was, he should be smacked in the face with a boot every single day. Like, these politicians should be afraid that we are going to do more shoe throwing. At least throw a drink. Like, if you can't get a shoe at them, go up to them in a restaurant holding a martini and say, "I'd love to talk to the senator," and then just splash a martini right in their face. I don't know if you can get arrested. Like, I know
you could. You could potentially get arrested for that. So maybe, don't throw shoes or drinks at politicians. Fielding You says don't do that. But because it's not the right thing to do, but it'll definitely might get politicians scared enough to do stuff for us.
Violence is never the answer, but would it work? Is kind of how
Yeah, it's never the answer. Though, Amanda, if I were to ask you, what shoe would you throw at Biden? Like, if you were to pick a shoe.
So, here's the thing about Biden. He's not good. He's the daddy of the crime bill that you mentioned with Bill Clinton. But he's of a certain age. I don't know if I could bring myself to throw a hard shoe at him. I could definitely throw a slipper at him or like an Old Navy flip-flop, but like I don't know, there's something about me that I can't throw that much of a shoe at somebody. Like, what if that took him out, like,
I mean, that would be the point, right?
I think the point is to make them pay attention and be more pay more attention and be more responsible to their citizens. Because if Biden is killed by a shoe, that means when Kamala Harris is sworn in as president, no one gets to wear shoes around her or any president for the rest of time. And think about how gross our feet will be.
They'll be very gross, but we'll always remember that we have shoes. We'd have to somehow find ways to get shoes places.
They would be like, okay, you have to put your shoes in this like locked bag every time you were like at an official event. Like, if I would love to bring Gracie Mansion in the park, are my shoes commandeered? I don't know.
But they might have to. I think it would be like after 9/11. Like, you cannot leave. Like, you cannot leave. You can only wear your shoes at home. So like, it'd be like the opposite. And like, you cannot wear your shoes outside. Like, it's like, how now you take your shoes off and then you get in. Now it'll be like, you cannot leave your shoes at home because you are throwing shoes at politicians. But I do feel like this is something that we should get happening. They're not scared. They're not scared. And we don't they're not scared and they don't do anything because they're not scared. They don't do anything. That guy throwing that shoe at George Bush's head, George Bush, that is the closest to accountability that George Bush has ever come to. Do you understand that?
Do I understand it? Yes. Does George Bush understand it? I don't think so. No one will even tell him that his paintings are derivative. You know, like no one will even like, not that that's his biggest problem, but nobody's even going to give him like baseline criticism. Like, we don't want to see your wrinkly ass knees in the bathtub.
Wait, what are his paintings? I actually haven't seen any of George Bush's paintings like ever.
That's what he paints, like his knees.
Ew, no, why? Has he not caused enough pain to people and suffering all over the world? Now he's showing us his knees. Like we've been through enough. Like we've had it. Like why? He's torturing us?
Here's the thing. I don't mind that he paints them. I wish he had always just painted. You know, like go to Yale, do coke, let your dad pay your way, and just do your little paintings. Like
yeah. He should have been a painter. Yeah, he should have been a painter, and I hardly ever say this. Yes. George Bush should have been a painter and just left it at that.
He might have been great. We don't know.
Probably not. I don't think he could be great at anything.
Yeah, odds are bad, but like, because to be a good artist, you kind of have to go through something, and like, I don't think anything has ever happened to him. He has only happened to other things.
Or people. He's happened to things and people a lot.
He's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how much he personally is responsible for Israel's like increasing global power, but like you're gonna want me out of here. I know my segment is winding down, but I'm gonna get on a soapbox really quick.
Yes.
George Bush and other white evangelicals do a lot of work to be like, Israel is the most important thing. We have to preserve Israel at all costs. And that is that is colonialism on colonialism on colonialism, because they don't think that because they care about Israelis or because they care that Jewish people believe that that's like the promised land from God. They care about it because in end times, they think it's going to be reserved for them. So that's why pro-Israel evangelicals are so pro-Israel. They're like, no, they're keeping it warm for us.
So it's like anti-Semitic. They're anti-Semitic in their pro-Israelness, which is like, feels like very dirty and disgusting. Well, because they're not doing it because like they think Jewish people matter. They're doing it because they matter. That's like really gross. That feels like something Regina George would do.
Like, you guys made this place so nice. And now that all of the world is in a lake of fire, we are going to be taking it. Thank you so much. Get out. Like that's what they think. So
that is so sick, but honestly not surprising. Because we all know that like the meanest people in high school were definitely the Christian girls and boys.
Yes. Oh, they were. God. If you haven't watched LuLaRoe, the LuLaRoe documentary, Lula Rich, which I don't know if you should, you might die of rage. And it's also very triggering because every girl on there is the meanest girl from her high school, but now she's like 42.
That is so sad. But also I don't like this whole impression that it's only girls that are mean, because boys are also very mean. They're just not very smart. So they use like violence.
And none of them sell leggings. So they weren't featured in the documentary. Sorry, men. Sorry, don't at me. Men, I don't want to see you selling leggings. That's my hottest opinion.
Don't sell leggings, and also be very sad that people who escape from prison have now been put in prison. That made us very sad. Thank you so much for coming, Amanda. I really enjoyed talking to you. And please make throwing shoes at politicians a thing again, everybody.
Hashtag parody, yeah.
Hashtag parody, hashtag we don't really mean that. All right, thanks, Amanda. All right, that was Amanda telling us about her feelings about, 6 Palestinians being rearrested, among other things, and also bringing up the fact that maybe we should not throw shoes at politicians. Before I bring up my next guest, who is going to be talking to us about imperialism, I would like to talk about a very important subject to me, which is that recently I ran into this book while I was high called The Empire of Illusion by Chris Hedges. And it talks about all these illusions that the American empire has. And one of them is celebrity culture. And essentially, He says that celebrity culture pretty much has gotten us to do everything that we think we want to do. Like, for example, we do makeup potentially because we saw the Real Housewives Nene do it. And this got me thinking about a lot of things that I do and got me to question whether am I doing certain things because I like them or have I been conditioned to like them. So these are some of the things that I've thought about. For example, Utz wavy chips. Do I like them or have I been conditioned to like them? I thought about these chips for a long time and I have not seen a hot celebrity eat them. And I kind of just like ran into them in the grocery store. So I think I just like these chips. I have not been conditioned. Another thing that I was thinking, biker shorts. Do I like them or have I been conditioned? One thing is that if you come to Brooklyn, the outfit here is everybody has biker shorts and crop tops. It is a thing that people do. And I've often wondered, why do I wear biker shorts even though I've never biked a day in my life? So I feel like this is one of the things that I've definitely been conditioned because biker shorts cut my circulation a lot, but I still think I look hot in them for some reason. And why am I willing to give up my circulation to look hot? I do feel like that is definitely conditioning. I have seen somebody wear it, maybe Rihanna. I don't know. I think she definitely tricks me into doing a lot of things that I think I like to do. And the last thing is like wearing a white tank top with short shorts. Have I been conditioned to like this or is this something that I like? This was my summer uniform. I do feel like this is definitely conditioning because I did watch Beyonce in Crazy in Love and she looked very hot in this. So that is definitely a conditioning. So moral of the story is that a lot of the things that we do might have been because of propaganda. So if you find yourself just like automatically doing something or thinking something, question it. Is it something that you're doing because you actually like or you want to like, or is it because you saw it on TV on a celebrity? And so another thing that I want to leave y'all with is that if you do have time, please read The Empire of Illusion by Chris Hedges. You can find it for free on the Anarchist Library. Anyway, that is enough for that little segment. And I'm going to head on over to our very last piece of news. And our very last piece of news is news that made me happy. I want to end this podcast on a very happy note. So in what I'm calling the real imperialists of Earth, France has recalled its ambassador to the United States because the United States pretty much took money out of France's pocket. What happened is that the United States has gone behind France's back to provide nuclear submarines to Australia, which led to Australia canceling its $37 billion submarine contract with France. So Australia was going to give France a ton of money and France was going to give them conventional submarines. But the United States was like, nah, boo-boo. How about you end that deal, work with us, and we're going to give you submarines. So France is really upset about this. And also also the United States, Australia, and the UK have formed this group called AUKUS, which is supposed to challenge the rising power of China. Honestly, I never understand white people, but I feel friends in this, in the sense that, if my best friend canceled plans with me to hang out with cooler friends, I'd be pretty pissed off too. But the reason why this news made me super happy, because it's so exciting seeing evil countries getting mad that they're not being involved to do evil with other countries. Like, that makes me so happy to watch. Like, this whole notion that the UK, Australia, and the United States of America are coming together to challenge China is for one, really racist, because the reason why they're going after China is because China is a rising power and it's not white people. And the only way anybody's allowed to be a piece of shit exploitative nation state in this country, in this world, is if you're white. And France is like, well, hold on a minute. I want to be part of the racist crew and parade to challenge China in the South China Sea. So they feel really sad that they've been left out. And that honestly just cracks me up because it does feel like a Real Housewives episode. And that's why I'm calling that whole thing the real imperialists of Earth. But those are my happy thoughts. And I want to bring on my very good friend, even though we've never met in real life, we've met on TikTok. I want to bring up this activist and super talented artist who's going to tell us their point of view on France recalling their ambassadors to the United States because the United States essentially stabbed them in the back. Please welcome Logan Grendel to Feel the News with Friends. Hi, Logan.
Hello.
Logan, thank you so much for doing the show. Before you get into your feelings about France being stabbed in the back, would you like to give the audience just a general brief tidbit of your view on politics? and
My
your
view on
political view.
politics. Okay. Yeah, my worldview is that most people in the world want the same things, which is to be able to interact with the people and the planet on which they were born in ways that are joyous and largely cooperative. And the nation states of the world prevent that by, creating all these false divisions. And even the way that we have like right and left structured in this country is yet another way for them to capture the conversation and make it so that there is like a limited amount of things that you can talk about when like overwhelmingly people here want the same exact stuff, right? Like we agree on most things. We're not that divided except for on the issues that they make us talk about all the time. So, I mean, obviously I am an abolitionist of everything. And also like we need to abolish slavery. Slavery's still fucking legal, right? Like the 13th Amendment, there's the word except, right? The word except or unless or whatever the exact wording is, right? It's still fucking legal. That's why we have more people in prison now than there were slaves under chattel slavery because of that one little fucking word, right? So we have a tremendous amount of work to do and very little time to do it. So whatever, let me put it like this. If you're not radical, then you ain't shit, basically. And I don't mean that even as a dig. I just mean that literally. Like, we got 20 more years on this planet at most at this rate. So, that's about the size of it.
And I like that you brought up that most of us want the same things, but I do have to ask you a very important question. Do you think that my bully and I, Zach, that's my bully's name, do you think that we also want the same thing? Because I feel like Zach wanted me to be miserable and I wanted to be happy.
I think that maybe Zach wanted to be happy with you and had some kind of issue. And so he was like treating you badly rather than treating you well. So maybe you do want the same thing. Maybe you both want you to be happy, but he was just too much of an incel man-child, like a lot of the children in this country, to express that. That's giving him, the most benefit of the doubt I can.
So Logan is telling you that you and your bullies might have something in common and maybe you should try to figure it out. Logan, I love that message. And I do agree with you that nation states are the cause of a lot of problems and they trick us because they focus. It's like there's like 50,000 things to talk about and they want to talk about like the 3 things and they want to tell us about it over and over and over again.
Totally.
It's like if you like go to like a grocery store and the only thing they offer is Twizzlers and they're like, this is all you can eat. Are you for red Twizzlers or are you for green Twizzlers? And like, you're like, but these are the food. And they're like, no, all you have is Twizzlers and you have to decide. Right. I definitely agree with you on that. Right? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's like, it's like the Republicans and Democrats. It's like I'm dating myself a little bit, but like the Coke Pepsi war back in the day, right? Like, what if you don't want like battery acid tasting soda? You want some water, you want some orange juice, maybe you want some RC cola, nope, we can't talk about any of that. We're just going to talk about you either get Pepsi or you get Coke when there's a whole range of options out there, Yeah. Narrowing the field of discussion.
Yeah. So by narrowing the field of the discussion, they get to control how we think and believe and like forget the parts that like, even if you both don't like Coke and even if you like Pepsi and somebody else like Cokes, you both like really need water and you kind of want that, but it removes water from the conversation. So you're like, ooh, but you're like, but we can all get together to get this water. But it's like, no, no.
Meanwhile, Poland Spring is sucking all the water out from under you while you argue over which soda to have.
And selling it to you. And then now nobody drinks tap water and they drink bottled water. But it's like, that's the same water, except for they're selling it to you in a plastic bottle.
Yeah, they sell plastic. They don't sell water.
Nuh-uh. Oh, and like what's really messed up about the whole water situation? It's like they literally are getting this water for free. Like it's.
Yep, they're getting it for free and they're stealing it from basically the future of all the places that they're stealing it from. Just lowering the water table so people have wells. All of a sudden their wells run dry. That's peculiar. But hey, you can go to your local market and get some, Deer Park or Poland Spring or whatever the different label it is that Nestle Waters has in your local area.
Yeah. And you want to know something really toxic about me is that I would only drink Fuji water for the longest time. And I am not proud of this. And I truly blame my mother because she got me onto this. I was going to a conference. It was a United Nations. I was at like Model UN because I'm a dork and I was a nerd. And we stopped by. What did you say?
I think that's cool. No. Nerd out.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Nerd
Nerd out.
politics.
Oh,
Go for
I
it.
was on my way to Texas I was driving from college to Austin to go to a United Nations model UN conference. And my mom bought me like a 6-pack of Fuji water. And I was like, I will never drink anything ever again. So parents, stop it. Stop putting these seeds
It
of
starts at
environmental
home.
destruction in your children. But Logan, I got way off topic. I want to
That's
go back
okay.
to what we're talking about. Let's talk about France. How do you feel about this whole situation?
You love to see it, you just love it when the imperial powers have like a slap fight with each other. It's like, great, okay, yeah, you guys fight over, oh, you're fighting over like who gets to do the worst thing or like who's getting money to do something that nobody should be doing. Okay, yeah, like you keep fighting and squabbling because we need more time to figure out how we're going to get rid of all of you. So yeah, that's great. And like the fact that they're like, this whole like bellicosity it being increased against China is, like you said, it's fundamentally racist, right? It's just racist. It's like if anyone's going to be destroying the planet, it's going to be European people, like of some variety, or I mean, kinfolk, right? There's plenty of people of color who have bought in to the mythology of whatever flag it is that they live under, right? Rather than being like
Yes.
citizens of the planet, whatever. And like it's just really a shame like how much we buy into nationalism, which like I just like part of my brain just rejects it. It's like, what, I was born here. It at all like places like there's a place called Ventimiglia. It's in Italy, and it's like on the border of France, and like there's a place where like you go 10 miles in this direction, you're in France, 10 miles in this direction, you're in Italy. And like the people there speak both languages. And it's like the border doesn't mean anything. It's just this weird, artificially constructed thing. And there should be like, a slow, gentle gradation of cultures and just the way that things intermingle naturally, right? But like, nope, you got to have a wall there because like on this side we do this and on that side we do that. And it is one of the things which strips us of our fundamental humanity. And don't get me started on how I think like that's one of the reasons that they push sports so much, because it helps to feed jingoism.
Yeah, it is definitely. And the Olympics is definitely like this whole like missile waving contest between like, ooh, we got missile, yeah, missile waving contest. We can't fight each other in the field, but we can't fight each other, but we're gonna bring this thing. And then it's like this nationalism associated with it. It's just like, it's also really bad for athletes, because if you are running in Jamaica and there are amazing sprinters there, you're never gonna make it to the Jamaican national team. But if it was just based on how good the athletes were, all the athletes would have a greater opportunity to do what they want, because they wouldn't be stuck under like their little country. But just going back to the point that you made, I'm going to stop being silly, because I think you did make a really good point in terms of like, nationalism. It's actually really bad for us because it makes us less human, because we view ourselves as having in common with an American billionaire than like somebody who's of the same class with us, who's in Afghanistan. Like we view like us being, which doesn't make any sense, because it's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Just because you're American, y'all can't even shop at the same store. Like you will never hang out with Jeff Bezos. You have a greater chance of hanging out with somebody in Afghanistan who like runs a shop than you hanging out with Jeff Bezos, and they're like across the world. But you don't see that because you're like brainwashed.
Yeah, well, we're all just one lucky invention away from being multi-billionaires, right? Like it could happen for any of us, It's like
any of us. I mean, it's gonna happen for me, and I'm definitely gonna like drop this anarchism thing. It's just all a joke till like I get my first billion, and then my Logan and Amanda, we're not friends no more.
Right. Oh well, we'll wave goodbye to you, because we're going to wave goodbye to a lot of, I'm not going to get myself or you in trouble by finishing that thought. But
this is a comedy show, Logan. We don't mean anything we say here. We're joking.
Right. So let's just say that my earring that I'm currently wearing is, it's a joke. It's just a joke. Just a joke. I don't really mean this about any of the people who are in trouble or who are causing the trouble in our world.
It's just a
fashion statement.
It's a fashion statement. It's a fashion statement, like, us throwing shoes or throwing people in trash cans. They're just like cute things that we were saying. This is a comedy show. I'm a comedian. These are jokes. These are jokes.
Yeah.
I want to go back to patriotism, because I do think that patriotism and the WWE have a lot in common. But that's
Totally.
maybe, yeah.
No, totally.
Like,
The Democrats and the Republicans are 100% WWE wrestlers. They like come on, they do this whole thing. We're standing on the floor and like the gentleman will yield their time and blah 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 and like I repudiate what the gentleman has said and blah blah blah. And then they go and their kids are in school together. They go yachting on the weekends. You know, there is absolutely like, you know, it's a show. You know, they
it is
have
a
the
show.
same interests.
Do you think they have a writer's room?
Oh, wow.
Do you
I did
think
not
it's like a
consider that
show
until
where
this
they're like
very
somebody's
moment.
out here like writing their lines? Like, what if this whole thing, what if
Oh,
no
no.
joke, they all wake up in the morning and they meet and they're like, so you're gonna say this, and like they're literally like the billionaires just hand them their scripts and like they leave. Like they don't even like bother to look at those scripts. It's like Heather agrees. Heather agrees. Heather thinks that they have a writer's room. And thank you, Heather. Yes.
I think that's quite feasible. I mean, they have Alec. Alec is basically the writer's room for all of their bills. So, you know, why shouldn't they have a writer's room for like, you know, the public facing parts too, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, that is so true. I never. Yeah. Oh,
I'm
man,
glad
that's
I'm
crazy.
sober because if you'd said that to me and I was baked, I would have been like, whoa. You just blew my mind, Marcela. Whoa. I'm gonna think about it though, for real.
No, my favorite thing is like getting high and reading like theory, because it doesn't make sense when I'm high, but it definitely like really messes with me, and then it just gets me in the state where I'm like more willing, like I'm less terrified. Like sometimes I have to read some theory not sober because I'm like my brain is not ready.
I hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Logan, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
coming on and talking to us about all these things. I guess the takeaway from this conversation is that politicians have a writer's room and it's all written by Bezos. But that's it for the news. I want to bring back Wagatwe and Amanda. And I would like, just want to make sure that we are unmuted. And this is the final moment of the show that I like to call a high moment. This is a moment where I go around and I ask our guests, what high moment have you had? And a high moment is just a moment where you're extremely baked and you just come up with something that you think is extremely smart. And you want to share it with all of us. And I'll go first. My high moment that I had is that I thought about it and I was like, what if we all just quit our jobs, all of us, every single one of us, and we just learned how to grow food? That's all we need to survive. This whole thing would be over if we all woke up tomorrow and did that. Okay, I'm going to go around. Let's start with Logan. Logan, what's your high moment?
I just want to say that one of the things I do is teach people how to grow small space container gardens. And like I produce like all of my own vegetables and I live in New York. So it's not like you need a lot of space or like you're onto something there. My high thought was, so this was pretty recently. And since then I've been on like a crusade. What is the witch's version of a crusade? I don't know, whatever. Basically, I came to the conclusion that like, if it weren't for Fox News, like, and I mean, there's lots of things that contribute to our problems, but I think Fox News is like by far number one, because like people go to the news for education, right? It's like continuing adult education, let's call it, right? Like, because the system's set up so that, you know, you have to work all day. And so if you want to be informed, you watch the news, and like they put the news out and people just watch it because they think, well, this is the news, right? This is how I learn things. This is how I stay informed. And for the past 30 years, they've been just lying to the American people. And the real like Satori moment of it was that like, that's the reason they like Donald Trump so much. It's not that he's one of the most brilliant con men ever. Like that's true. But the reason they like him is not that he's special. It's that he's everybody's drunk uncle who's been watching Fox News for the past 30 years. He just says all the stuff that they've been watching, right? And like that's why when he deviates from it, he gets booed too. Like he got booed recently for saying, take the vaccine, because on Fox, 60% of their vaccine segments have been like anti-vaccine, or like, look, they didn't say whatever, you know what I mean? They're tricky about it, but you know what I mean? So yes, if we got rid of Fox News, we would be able to successfully deprogram people in months.
Thank you for that high moment, Logan. I would like to add that we should get rid of all news, and we will be able to deprogram everybody.
Love it.
I want to move ahead to Amanda. Amanda, what is your high moment?
Okay, well, like a really cool fun fact about me is that I have asthma. So when I smoke, I have to take my inhaler. So I then am like very aware of being high. Like, and it's not that fun to get high with me because I'm like, like it's too much. So I don't get high that often. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I would get drunk and go on my worst aunt's Facebook and report all of her posts for racism. She has like 4 profiles because she kept getting blocked on Facebook and having to repost. And like eventually I was like, Facebook is poisoning me. Like she still thinks all these things, but I am reading all of her awful stuff and it's making me so angry. And it's like, I am drunk. I should just be watching TV and like being quiet, like take this time and like relax. So I'm off Facebook, kind of like my aunt has to be alive.
Thank you for that high moment, Amanda. If you have a racist aunt or just generally anybody who's spreading misinformation, please feel free to constantly report all their posts. That is a lesson from that.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Finally, let's move on to Wagatwe. Wagatwe, what is your high moment?
Mine is not nearly as funny, but I was just thinking about like heterosexuality. Is it really that natural or normal? Because if it was, why are they always like marketing it to us? And they market it from such a young age. And then it's only like, oh, hey, this is a really nice wedding. It's not even like, hey, marriage is great. It's like, hey, you get this one nice fucking day. And that's it. I'm like, is it really that like worth it? Like, I really feel like we're, obviously compulsory heterosexuality, but it was just made me really think about like how coercive inherently heterosexuality is. And so I've just been thinking about that.
Oh, wow. I love that. They market it. You get to be a princess for a day. You get to wear this dress. Just marry a man. Because when you're younger, they don't even tell you that you could potentially like not want to. And then this whole idea is like you're either a boy or a girl. That's also another thing. That's another thing we can talk about. We can talk about that later, which all those things have messed me up as an adult. Because now I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand. It's like,
Right.
Anyway, no, those are beautiful high moments. Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like heterosexuality is definitely marketed to us like
It's a
Rihanna
trap.
marketed Fenty. And just like Fenty, heterosexuality is popular now.
Declining in popularity, though.
Declining
I feel like.
rapidly.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean,
goodness.
I feel like the same thing is happening to Fenty too. Like they're both going down.
Oh, shots fired. Shots fired.
Brianna, if you're watching, and thank you for watching, I just wanted to say I've been using your diamond highlighter and I'm getting tons of compliments on it. So I'd love to partner with you in some way.
I mean, we do not support capitalism here. Do not talk to Rihanna on this show. Who are you?
Of course not. Of course not. I don't support capitalism. However, I do love to make a little cash, and so
You like billionaire money.
I like billionaire
Just
money.
give you a little bit of those pennies. That's all you want. You're not.
I'm not
asking for
trying
a
to
lot.
support billionaires, but if billionaires want to support me, I'm available.
Mm. Yeah, that's a one-way street. I feel that. Yeah, only in this direction.
Give us your money because it's really ours anyway.
Period.
Yes.
Anyway, Lydia, that is so true. Yeah, Lydia. I'm happy that you're talking to your therapist about gender and heterosexuality. Lydia is somebody who's commenting on the chat. I'm really happy you're talking to your therapist about both things because it is not right what they did to us. Okay, it
Really
is not
though,
right.
I'm so mad about it. I think about it like every day. I'm like, heterosexuality is such a fucking scam. Like this is so messed
so
up. I'm
is.
so mad.
It's so I had to wait until like last year to really get my makeup game to where it is now, right? Like I really needed an entire year where I didn't have to go out and like pretend like, yes, I am a cis dude. Yeah, just like y'all. Yeah. Right. No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's a prison. It's a prison, and I'm an
really
abolitionist.
is.
So
Yeah, I'm an abolitionist too. Yes, it is
prison
a
and
prison.
we're
Heterosexuality and
abolitionists.
gender are definitely a prison. And get out. Get that spoon and start digging because you should not be in them. Just get out. Well, that is unfortunately, this is so much fun, but that is unfortunately the very end of our show. Thank you so much for joining us, Heather and Lydia, and commenting, and everybody else who joined. I really appreciated it. If you like what you heard today and you would like to support some of the comedians, I will send them this bill afterwards. Please Venmo Marcela Onyango to support comedians and the activists. It says comedians because I did not change this from last time. But not everybody here is a comedian, even though they are funny and make me really laugh a lot. But I think everyone is a comedian. But yeah, feel free to support if you can, and if you can't, that's okay too. We really appreciate you for coming through and hearing us today. And I just want to do a quick round before we leave. Can everybody just go on and let everybody know where they can find you? Because I don't think I covered everybody. Logan, can we start with you?
Sure. You can find me on, I am on Instagram frequently at Focused on Infinity. I'm also on TikTok at Focused on Infinity. On Twitter is at Watcher Infinite. Also Patreon. Patreon is also Patreon/Focused on Infinity. And you can follow some breadcrumbs to some other less safe for work activities, but you have to find it yourself.
Thank you, Logan. Wagatwe.
Hi. You can find me basically anywhere at Wagatwe. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, where we all met. Or most of us, I should say. And also my website, wagatwe.com. I also have a newsletter. If you ever want to hear me talk about things like that, like heterosexuality being a scam, I'm thinking about doing more longer things on that. So sign up if you want to hear more.
And Amanda?
I am at Amanda Huntonkiss on Twitter and Instagram. And I host a podcast with my friend Kara. Marcela's been a guest. It's called Growing Out the Pod, where we talk about hair and what we do with it and how we let it be on our bodies or take it off of our bodies.
Thank you. And lastly, I'm your host, Marcela Onyango, and you can find me on Feel the News with Marcela on TikTok, or you could just go to feelthenews.com where you can see videos and other fun things and follow us on other things. Thank you so much for joining, and goodbye, Logan, Amanda, and Wagatwe. See you later. Bye.
Bye.